Morning, we'll call the meeting of the Texas Real Estate Commission to order at 10:01 and ask everyone to please rise, and Commissioner Westcott will lead us in the pledges.
Please join me in pledging to the United States flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. You may be seated. Commissioner Martinez is somewhere in the building, so I don't believe we will actually have to excuse him if he's going to show up. I see his coffee cup over there, so I believe he's on his way. And Tony Slagle wanted to come forward and actually do a special greeting for this day so that everyone would remember what today was.
Good morning, everybody. May the 4th be with you.
Thanks, Senator.
It's International Star Wars Day, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tony.
Yes, May the 4th.
Now, it was just a little humor, and it was, I hope, before we went on camera.
Very little.
Very little humor. And what is that, Mary Poppins? There's nothing like a good joke, and that was nothing like a good joke. So we're going to move agenda item 21 to 8B. So when we get to 8, after general comments from visitors, we will then hear from our internal audit, about our internal audit. And I would also, the chair would like to recognize the Chairman Wycliffe of the Appraisal Board, who's in our midst today. Hi, Jamie. We're glad for you to be here. And I believe that she will be with us and make a little comment on agenda item 22 a little later on. So, I believe we will hear from staff. Are you first, Mr. Olmixon?
Morning, Chair and Commissioners. Welcome to your regular quarterly meeting. I just have a few key words about what we've been up to. The legislature is in session, and so we've spent a lot of time working on our bills, and you'll hear from Tony Slagle an update on those items. I'm also pleased to tell you that I actually believe I haven't received confirmation on the last two, but if they happen today, we'll be at 100% staff, which at the beginning, late February and early March, we were down 6 positions. So that's a tribute to the hard work of our HR department and a gentleman that's been hired to assist us there, who is a retired sergeant major. So I guess when he tells you to sign up, you just salute and sign up. We've spent some time working on our budget, and that will be on your agenda item today, and our budget committee met this morning. There's some wonderful advances in technology that have the opportunity to save us additional funds down the road. We're very pleased with that. Steve will talk to you about that. Of course, several of the committees and working groups have met between your last meeting and this meeting, and so you'll hear some progress reports there, as well as from each of the senior team managers. There's a variety of projects that they're working on, some of which they'll provide you some update on. And then probably the most important thing is that tomorrow is our annual QSC festival for Cinco de Mayo, celebrate Cinco de Mayo, and QSC is queso, salsa, and chili. And we will have a fine panel of celebrity judges to determine whether or not the TREC Enforcement Division, which currently holds first place in all 3 categories, will somehow be knocked from their pedestal by one of our upstart challengers in the other divisions. So, unless you have any questions for me, I'll turn it over to the staff.
Are there any questions? Any questions for? Nope. Thank you. Who's first? All right.
Good morning, Lori Deanda, Director of Reception and Communication Services. Before I refer you to the C1 report, I would like to introduce you to a new team member. Amy Jasper was hired as a program specialist. She was born and raised in the Texas Panhandle and later earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in government from Angelo State University. She moved to the Austin area in 2007 and began her employment with TREC in September 2008. Prior to joining the Reception and Communication Services Division, Amy was a member of the Education and Licensing Services Division as a team lead. She loves to spend time with her family and enjoys traveling. Okay, please refer to the C1 report. For the month of March, we received 21,443 calls. We assisted 286 walk-ins and responded to 7,412 emails within one business day. I also would like to report a change that took place in RCS that made an enormous improvement in completing calls at a much faster pace. We had the internal instant messaging feature installed in our systems, and in the month of March, we were able to assist over 3,300 additional calls than what we did for the month of January, and almost 2,600 additional calls than the month of February. So this feature has really made a big improvement in handling the calls. And that concludes my report, so I'm available to answer any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions for Ms. Deanda? Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Jackson?
Good morning. Gwen Jackson, Director of Education and Licensing Services. As Mr. Olmixon indicated, we have several new staff persons. We're almost fully staffed. We have 4 new staff, and we've got 1 on holding. I'd like to introduce our new staff members to you. First of all, I'd like to introduce Kimberly Hearn. Kimberly is one of our licensing specialists whose area of expertise will be the inspector program. She's worked with the American Red Cross of Central Texas as a disaster services intern, and she's been a certified nurse's assistant. She recently completed her Bachelor of Arts in Science degree from Texas State University, and she has her hands full with 2 lovely twin girls. We also have Carol Fischera, and Carol is a licensing specialist, and we're going to train her as well in the inspector program. She comes to us from the University of North Texas, where she worked for several years as an administrative assistant in the Department of Mathematics. She recently relocated to Austin, Texas with her family, and we're glad to have her aboard. Mike Sample Deal is one of our education specialists who is assigned to our continuing education program. He's worked for the Texas Department of Public Services, the City of Austin Airport Police, etc. During his interview, he expressed a desire to be a part of an agency that works to protect the consumers of this state, and he indicated that TREC's mission statement was one of the motivating factors in his decision to apply for this position. And we have Melissa Waters, and Melissa is also one of our education specialists. She's assigned to our qualifying education program. She has worked for the 1st Cavalry Division as the Family Readiness Program Coordinator. She has over 10 years of experience working in various programs for the Department of Defense as a government service employee and government contractor. She graduated with her MBA and BS in interdisciplinary studies. Melissa lives in Temple with her active duty Army husband, Brent, and her 3 children. Thank you. Please direct your attention to the ELS reports, most notably the L1 report for March. shows that we continue to see an increase in individuals who are looking to start careers as real estate sales agents. We received 995 more sales agent original applications compared to last year, March, which results in almost a 10% increase in sales agent applications. As a result of the increase in both broker and sales applications, we've issued 1,396 more licenses from original applications, which results in a 13% increase in total licenses issued. If there are no questions for this report, the increases on this L1 report are further supported by the L2 report. The L2 report shows that there are a total of 156,084 active and inactive brokers and sales agents, compared to 146,558 last year this time. Again, here we see the significant increase in active and inactive sales agents by over 10%, from 101,719 last year to 111,441 this year. We have a total of 3,101 inspectors and 2,183 ERW registrants, for a grand total of 161,378 licensees and registrants, again reflecting a 10% increase in total licenses and registrants over that of March 2014. If there are no questions.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
I just have a curiosity question. Do you have any statistics on whether or not this is evenly distributed throughout the state, or particular areas are really seeing big increases? Do we have that?
I don't have anything like that handy, but it may be some information that we can ask our IT section to pull for us.
I think it might prove interesting if that's something that's easily, obtained.
Okay, just to find out what the demographics are for that increase.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, we can check that for you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Right. We can move to the L3 report, and that report provides the examination activity strictly for the month of March of this year. If we move to the L3A report, which is the next report, it provides a year-to-date comparison for March 2015 and 2014. The first attempt pass rate for brokers is at 50% compared to 51% in 2014, and it's 52% for sales agents compared to 50% in 2014. If there are no questions, the L4 report provides a breakdown of the number of approved instructors. This report has a new look because we've separated out the inspector instructors so that you can not only see the number of instructors approved to teach qualifying elective and non-elective courses for real estate brokers and sales agents, but also for inspectors. If there
Are there any questions? You have one,
Chairman.
Commissioner Justice?
Sorry, I'm going to be noisy today.
It's okay.
I just want to take a chance between this report and the next report to say that for whatever reason, I was found by a lot of people in the last month to 6 weeks who had questions that needed to be addressed by individuals here on staff, and it happened to be both in education and standards and enforcement. And I just want to tell you how much you are appreciated for the efficiency with which you get back to those people. There should be a very nice letter arriving, Doug, from someone who went out of their way to tell me about that. And so both of these groups deserve kudos for how they're serving the public.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Did you have a question, Mr.
Yes, I do. This is not directly related to your report, but since in the title that you have, education and license, this is more of an education question. What, if anything, can the Real Estate Commission do, or if they are not already doing it, about having interns to at least get a better overview of the way that the commission works and how we might be able to get more young people interested in the real estate profession by understanding how the commission itself works within the state of Texas?
Okay. Okay, that's a very good question. I may let Mr. Olmixon address it.
Mr. Alley, we have from time to time entertained the possibility of having interns. In fact, we have had a couple in the last 5 years or so. Right now, our focus is, and so we are open to that possibility. It takes a significant amount of coordination, which I tasked our HR department to look into and continue. To work with programs. Many of the intern placement programs have specific requirements for those. The ability to match to interests, to train to a level that allows the participants to have, especially if it's an unpaid internship. Obviously, paid is a little different. We just haven't ever put any money in the budget for that. But for unpaid interns, education to the level that allows them to essentially write a final report and get some academic credit or something, something along those lines. It is something that we will continue to look at, and as we stabilize and raise the experience level of our current staff and the tenure of our staff, we may be able to actually free up some resources to spend more time looking to do that. I know that there are, as far as just the interest in the real estate profession itself, it seems to kind of taken care of itself a little bit, only in the sense that there's never been a shortage of folks wanting to come into the business, and I believe that the professional associations offer some programs that are very helpful in that regard. And we're always looking for ways to partner with them to better serve the people of Texas, so that portion of our mission statement, which says that that we work hard to ensure that there are adequate, competent, and ethical service providers to serve the needs of all the people of Texas, is highlighted. That need is highlighted, especially with the influx of people to Texas. But right now, that balance seems to be maintaining itself. And I know that's a little far afield from your specific question, but it's something that we're very interested in doing. We have stuck our toe in the water, but we need to dive in and swim a few laps.
And I think that's good. I just wanted to bring the attention to the fact and not address the fact. The more that we can get our young people engaged in opportunities where they can see not only the mission of the commission, but also the state of Texas, you get more potential people that are in the pipeline that might be able to fill some of the positions when we do become understaffed. But thank you for your response.
Thank you, Commissioner Ellis. Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Mark Moore.
Mark Moore, Standards and Enforcement Services. We've got 3 reports today, but before the reports, we also have a new employee, Raquel Salazar. Could you please stand up? Raquel comes to us from the University of Texas system, and before that she was in private practice as a legal assistant, and she comes to us also as a legal assistant. She also one time held a real estate license, and I hope I'm not misquoting this from my memory, did property management. I think her skill set, and she's also done PI requests as well, public information requests. So her skill set is very well suited for our legal assistant needs, and please welcome Raquel. We have the 3 reports today. The first one, you'll see some pretty significant fluctuation from month to month on cases coming in, received, and cases closed. We have reached a rough equilibrium, I think, on cases coming in and going out, whereas in the past we had a large backlog. If you look at the next report, which is the case aging report, you'll see that that backlog had been significantly decreased, which I think is why that rough equilibrium is not really a problem, in my opinion. We have 3 cases that are over 2 years old. 2 of those cases are on the agenda today, and agenda item 10, they've had proposals for decision. The 3rd case is set for hearing next month. The 3rd report is the complaint subject categories report, and those numbers have about 13 months of data. As you can see there, we have basically a year and plus 1 more month. that those numbers have stayed roughly. They have significant variations from month to month as well, but the percentages have stayed roughly about the same as well. Do y'all have any questions about any of the three reports or the division in general?
Are there any questions for Mr. Moore? Hearing none. Thank you, Mark. Okay. Steve, Spiropoulos, something like that. Okay. IT. I'll get it right someday.
Hello, good morning. Steve Spiropoulos, ITS. A few updates I'd like to bring forth before I go through the reports. Shortly after the last commission meeting, we went live with the new TALCB website. We would like, any feedback you guys may have. If you would like to take a look at that site, it's sort of a preview of what the new TREC website is going to look like. There is a link to that site from the TREC website, and you'll be able to have sort of an idea of where we're going. Our goal for this TREC website is to have it delivered by December of this year. And in order to help us achieve that goal, we had an open programmer position which now has been filled, and John Verdanian is going to be starting on the 18th of May. I'll be presenting him at the next commission meeting. We also installed a new firewall and upgraded our internet connection speeds and increased those from 20 megabits to 100 megabits, and the purpose of that was to allow more users, more concurrent users, to connect to our website and to access our online services. Since that change, we've seen a dramatic increase in performance. We've seen a reduction in calls about issues with the website and inability to access the online tools. So we think that that was quite a positive effect. We also have a new project schedule that we're rolling out here shortly so that we can sort of be transparent about when we expect to deliver our projects. So for fiscal 15 and 16, we sort of have a roadmap for our projects until the end of fiscal 2016. And so any questions on that before I get on to the reports?
Are there any questions so far? Back to you.
So for our I-1 report, we had an increase in visitors to the page and also another increase of unique visitors as well. Compared to the last fiscal year to date total, we have just over 1 million more visits and roughly 200,000 additional visitors, unique visitors. Our online transaction percentages also went up compared to last fiscal at 76.8% versus 72.2%. And it's the same for our renewals, 94.7 versus 94.6, and our sponsorship transactions as well at 89% online versus 85 the previous fiscal year. For the I2 report, we have remained steady on utilization of online application services between 70 and 80%. For the online renewal services as well, we're hovering around the 95% range. And the last graph there is our RMT utilization, which is also around 90% right now. Any questions on those reports?
Do we have any questions for the technology department? Thank you.
Thank you.
Melissa Huerta, Staff and Support Services.
Good morning. I'm Melissa Huerta with the Director of Staff and Support Services. Before I start, I wanted to introduce a new employee that we have, our new budget analyst. Her name is Karen Skorbarczyk, and she has 22 years experience with the state as a financial analyst, an underwriter, contract management, and financial monitoring. Karen graduated from Baylor University with her BA in finance, so we welcome her to our division. Okay, our first report is the budget status report as of March 2015, and as you can see, we're pretty on target with most of our expenditures. There's a few items there in the comments. Our rent has been paid for the year, so we've already expended that budget line. We have just a few space rentals that will use up the rest of that. And then the Versa annual maintenance for the year has been paid. Are there any questions on the budget?
Do we have questions on the budget? I guess we're going to hear a little bit more about it in a little bit.
The budget for 2016 will be up.
Yep.
Okay, the next report is the investments on our operating for the reserve funds. So you can see at the end of March, our market value is $2,061,755.30, and our earnings, our cumulative earnings to date were $3,862.50. Are there any questions on that one?
See none.
All right. The next one is on the investments for our the trust account, the real estate recovery trust account. Our balance in that account for the cash is $1,208,414.88. Our investment balance is $797,569.56. We do have reserve for potential payments, $786,255, which leaves us a balance of $1.2 million. Is there any questions on real estate trust account? Okay, the next report is on the same account, and it's just showing you that the payments to date for this fiscal year, we've had 11 claims paid out for $298,181.85. So now we're just a little above what we expended in 2014. Any questions? Okay. This last report is on the inspection recovery fund. And right now we have cash available, $359,069.08. Our investment balance is $253,847.50. We have $33,000 reserved for payments within 90 days. So our balance is $579,916.58. And year to date, we have not paid any claims out of this fund. Any questions? Nope.
Any questions?
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Huerta. Until seen again. Something I failed to do at the beginning of the meeting is to remind you that if your intention is to speak on an agenda item today, that you would need to fill out one of these papers. They're out front, and hand them to Ms. Hinton, who's in the blue and waving at you. And as is our custom, you will have 3 minutes to make your point, and we appreciate it if we can be non-repetitive of the person who spoke before, or a couple of people before. So now, the executive committee met this morning and went over several things, one of which is our intention is to look at the advertising rule at perhaps our August meeting, and we went through some proposals that we have from staff and from some comments we've gotten from the public. And also knowing about that and knowing about what may come from the legislature that would require rule changes, it will be my intention to appoint a broker working group a little later this spring that will meet in the summer to advise us on what we wish to propose in the advertising rule and whatever the legislature might have done that requires some rule changes. I'll be looking to put people on that working group who represent various disciplines and regions of the state, as well as large and small real estate companies, and have a broad range but a small group. And we also wanted to make known that the Broker Lawyer Committee has 2 seats that will become open, and we will look at reappointing into those 2 seats or appointing someone new into those seats at our August meeting. So we'll be posting that. And again, those candidates were looking for various disciplines. The people going off are from East Texas and from Fort Worth. So we kind of want to look for those 2 areas. And those will be vetted by the executive committee. And got any questions about what we did? No? Cool. Commissioner Martinez, are you here to make the report of the Budget Committee as chairman. Sir.
I am. I'll do it from my chair here if that's okay.
If that's okay with lawyers, it's okay with me.
Great. The budget subcommittee met this morning. We had a high-level overview of what's going on, and if you look at your, it is. I thought we might have somebody that wanted to speak on the budget. Things are looking really good, overall, and we'll dive into this a little bit more. But overall, there's a 5% increase for staff for salary and wages, of which a 2.5% was a legislative mandate to keep up with some things that are happening there, and that'll be so. That's one of the things that kind of stands out. We also talked about contracting services. We've got a employee recruitment firm that we use when we're hiring some of the technical positions. So that's a line item budget that was unique and also will be going away, but certainly good use of dollars to get a high quality individual. So that was one of the other issues. And one of the other things that'll stand out to each one of the commissioners is at the bottom middle at the fiscal year 2015 estimated expenditure category. We've got $1.4 million in excess revenue, and that's due to the fact that we've got 10,000 more license applications. So there's been a blip. I hate to use that word, but there's been a blip increase in license holders, which is good for revenue. And also we've talked about some long-term projections on what we're going to do with those dollars, but also maintaining the fact that we have to budget as it is not going to happen every year that we're going to have 10,000 additional unexpected license applications. So I would encourage the general population and license holders out there to save your phone calls and emails asking for us to reduce fees at this time. But certainly if we get 3 or 4 years of 10,000 more, we'll certainly reduce every fee we can. But it was a very good, very thoughtful meeting. Commissioner Arriaga was present, and Commissioner Westcott was there as well in support phase, and both brought up some very good questions. But I believe that's the overall summation. Commissioner Arriaga, if you'd like to make some comments, feel free.
Well done.
Thank you. And Commissioner Westcott. Great.
We
That concludes my report.
Thank you, Chairman Martinez. We appreciate all of you and your work in your gift zone. You have a report for the Education Standards Advisory Committee, Ms. Lewis?
Good morning, Carrie Lewis, General Counsel. Susan Jones, Chair of the ESAC, could not be there today, so she asked that I give a short report. ESAC has been very busy this spring. In March, they had their second working group to talk about education standards for all delivery methods, and then in April, they had a full committee meeting. At the full committee meeting, there was a lot of discussion about standards necessary for every type of delivery method for both qualifying and CE courses, and the committee has no specific recommendations on that today. However, they have instructed staff to prepare some draft rules that the committee will look at this summer and bring back to you in August. The committee also looked at recommendations for a Texas instructor training course form that is in your materials today, and that will be an agenda item for you. And if you recall, that is going to be for the course that was approved effective January 1st, 2016, that all instructors take a teaching course. And then the last item that was discussed was the current passage rate for the exam passage rate, looking at the methods and certain issues of consistency with that. And that, again, is an item that has come back to staff for more research and drafting, and that they will look at that at their June meeting and then bring something forward in August. So the next meeting of the committee will be held on June 17th at 10 a.m. in Austin. And Ms. Jones wanted me to thank everybody who has participated, not just the committee members, but the many stakeholders and colleges and universities that have participated in the working group as well as come to the committee meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Please take back to this group how much we appreciate all of their hard work. and the input of all of the various people that have come forward that aren't really real estate people to help us make good, informed decisions. Excuse me. Chairman Reinhardt of the Inspector Committee, are you wishing to make a report? Is it your heart's desire?
It's my pleasure, yes. Stephen
Thank you.
Reinhardt, current chair of the Inspector Advisory Committee. Of the three committees we have, the Enforcement Committee has been kind of quiet. I know Mr. Phillips has a meeting scheduled to look at some of the things in that area. The Education Committee has a meeting scheduled to kind of mirror what's happening in the ESAC committee and see how things address in the from the inspector side. The Standards of Practice has started the, I call kind of the biannual review of the Standards of Practice to look at updating those. That usually takes about a year to go through, taking in recommendations and comments from the public inspectors and working on that. There are a couple things coming up on the agenda that have to do with us. One of them is updating our inspector report form and the preamble there, and also the OPI. I do recommend that the OPI maybe be considered by the Broker Lawyer Commission to get a little more saturation. Right now it has good information on it, but it only goes to people that get home inspections. I think if it was a little more, had a little more saturation to even transactions that don't get inspections, I think would be a benefit. But other than that, that's kind of a summary of what we're doing. And I might be back up later, I'm not sure.
Sir?
Any questions?
Apparently not. Thank you, Chairman Reinhardt. We'll see you again, I guess, in a little bit. It is that time in our agenda where we ask for general comments from visitors on a non-agenda item. So if you're a visitor with a comment on a non-agenda item, this is your opportunity to come forward. A non-agenda item speaker. Apparently we have, I see no one making any move to stand up, so apparently we have none. I do want to thank everybody for attending. We have a fairly large crowd today. There couldn't be anything controversial on the agenda. So I don't know what that's all about. And I would now remind you that we moved item 21 to this place and asked for Richard Galindo to come forward with the audit. Look at item 21 in your agenda. And I will tell you the page number momentarily. Page 225.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners, Mr. Administrator, and staff. Again, thank you for having us here this morning. We are here to propose the fiscal year 2015 internal audit plan for the Texas Real Estate Commission. The plan has been prepared following general accepted auditing standards and the international standards of the professional practice of internal auditing, as determined by the Institute of the Internal Auditors. The fiscal year internal audit plan for the Texas Real Estate Commission was prepared using a risk assessment where we reviewed various documents and questionnaires completed by the division directors and various employees. We have identified 8 risk factors that we apply the risk assessment to. Those risk factors are financial materiality, the time since last audit or review, results of last audit or review, adequacy of staffing levels, policies and procedures, compliance with contracts, laws, and regulations, susceptibility of material theft or fraud, and issues and concerns. The audit plan identified 18 potential audit topics. 3 we identified as high risk, 8 as moderate risk, and 1 as low risk. On page 4, we list the audit of our audit plan. We list the audits proposed. On page 4, we list the audits performed in prior years. And on page 6, we list the audit areas and the proposed audit procedures. The 3 audit areas are the compliance with the Public Funds Investment Act, which we perform every 2 years, the examination process, which was last performed in 2007, and the customer communications area, which was an audit we last performed in 2006. Do we have any questions?
Are there any questions up to this point? See none.
Thank you very much.
That's it.
And
Thank you.
We're looking forward to performing the audit as planned, unless there are any changes.
You don't need a written approval? No, we do. We do. So we do need a motion to approve this proposal.
So moved.
And a motion and a whole bunch of seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, no. Motion carries. So you got the job.
Thank you very much. We're happy to be serving you once again.
Thank you. Thank you for all you do. For those of you new to watching us perform, we're getting ready to go into executive session, and I'll read the specific words. We'll be out for a while. I'll tell you how long, and there is a place to get some snacks if you need to. So, the executive session to discuss, we're going into executive session to discuss pending litigation or obtain advice of legal counsel on agenda items pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.071 and personnel matters pursuant to the Texas Government Code 551.074. I estimate that this will take 75 minutes, an hour and 15 minutes. That's what that is, 75 minutes. And we'll look forward to seeing you back about that time. We are going into executive session now. Getting back to order at 12 o'clock on May the 4th being with us. And we are actually going to move to agenda item 11, since I think some of the people who wish to speak on agenda items in 10 are not back yet. So who is presenting the recovery fund case? Is that you, Miss Lewis, and you?
All right, this is agenda item 11A, Recovery Fund Case 15-012, Edward Nepoleski versus Townline Properties, Team Lupe et al.
And Commissioner Jones, did you have something you wanted to say?
Madam Chair, may I recuse myself from this case and the next one for personal knowledge of the circumstances surrounding these?
Commissioner Hensley, did you have a motion?
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion on reference number 15-012. I recommend authorized payment for actual damage of $10,638 plus interest, court costs, and reasonable attorney fees.
A motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Recovery Fund Case 15-009, Rodriguez versus Townline Properties, LLC, Team Lupe, LLC et al.
Commissioner Hensley?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a recommendation on reference number 15-009. Recommend authorized payment of actual damage of $7,320.39 plus interest, court costs, and reasonable attorney fees.
A motion to have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Kristen Werman, Deputy General Counsel, on agenda item 11C, Recovery Fund Claim number 15016 and Inspector Recovery Fund Claim 15001. Sherry Rawlish versus Richard Humphreys et al.
Commissioner Justice, do you have a motion?
Madam Chairman, I move that we deny claim for payment from the Real Estate Recovery Trust account, but we authorize settlement on the best possible terms not to exceed $12,500 for payment from the Real Estate Inspection Recovery Fund.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Agenda item 11D, Recovery Fund item 15014, Michael Davis versus Susan Quinones et al.
Commissioner Alley.
Yes, Madam Chairman, I authorize settlement on best possible terms.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to 15104 to settlement on best possible terms. All in favor say aye. Aye. And opposed, no. Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners.
So the question becomes, what do we do? Because they're not back yet either. We had, we're going to turn over the chairman to TJ Turner, Commissioner Turner, and Commissioner Turner might suggest that 10A is not back in the room, so we could take them in order B, C, A. Is that acceptable to you, Commissioner Turner?
That's certainly fine with me. Could we have somebody go check the cafeteria area and see if Ms. Black, respondent in agenda item 10A, is in there, or see if she can be located somewhere handy? Otherwise, we're going to proceed with, at this time, with agenda item 10B. The way we'll do these is we'll have staff come up. Ms. Lewis will introduce the case. We'll have staff come up for 3 minutes. If the respondent's here, we'll give the respondent 3 minutes to respond, and then we'll give staff some time to rebut. So, Ms. Lewis, let's proceed with agenda item 10B, please.
Agenda item 10B is docket number 329144841, Texas Real Estate Commission versus Joel Brandon Nwigwe. In this case, the ALJ found several violations for failing to disclose previous criminal convictions on his application. The ALJ recommends revocation and a $1,500 admin pen.
Mark Moore, Standards and Enforcement Services. We agree with the proposal for decision and recommend adoption. I'm available for any questions, and also Sharon Harris, expert witness on the case, is also available.
Any questions from our commission members, from our staff attorneys at this time? Okay. Is the respondent, Mr. Nwigwe, here today? Okay. In that case, I'll entertain a motion at this time with regard to agenda item 10B.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a motion that we support and adopt the ALJ's recommendations for the decision in this case?
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, moving on to agenda item 10C.
Agenda item 10C is docket number 329144669, Texas Real Estate Commission versus Owners Advantage LLC. In this case, a proposal for decision was issued by the ALJ on February 5th, 2015. Respondents filed exceptions to proposal to decision dated February 23rd, 2015. Petitioners filed a response to respondents' exceptions to proposal for decision on March 4th, 2015, and the ALJ issued a response dated March 26, 2015, making no changes to his original opinion. The ALJ recommended that a cease and desist order be issued and that Owners Advantage LLC pay an $11,000 administrative penalty.
Mr. Morse?
We recommend adoption of the proposal for decision. Sharon Harris, the attorney on the case, is available for any questions.
Any commission members have any questions for our staff attorneys? No? I had Jeff Henry, attorney for Owners Advantage, sign in this morning. Mr. Henry? Three. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Henry. I do represent Owners Advantage. And I assume that I don't need to go through some of the backgrounds. That maybe you're familiar with the facts of the case. So let me just get right down to what our exceptions are in this matter. The ALJ basically found violation of what amounts to a definition of broker services in the Act, that we engaged in the business of charging an advance fee for contracting to promote primarily the sale of real estate by referring information to the real estate brokers. And what we tried to emphasize to the ALJ is that when you break down that part of the definition, there are a number of elements that have to be satisfied. And in our case, we just do not think that those elements are satisfied. And of course, my clients do intend to appeal any adverse order. There are constitutional issues that the ALJ, as he indicated in his proposal for decision, that the ALJ is unable to address. And so those are still hanging out there, and we will address those on appeal. But primarily, my client contracts with his customers to provide, if you will, parking spaces so they can park their advertising, their own advertising for the sale of their house. These are for sale by owner customers. We do not contract with them to promote their real estate. We do not contract with them to promote on a primary basis to refer their information to a broker. When they buy any package, they are given some 32 different services that they're purchasing. And so an MLS listing and a listing on realestate.com are only 2 of the 38 services, and our contention with the administrative law judge was that even if you assume that they've satisfied all of their elements, which we don't believe that they have, it's not the primary purpose of that. I don't have time to go into this in detail, but you all are smart folks, and you can read everything that's been filed and reach your own conclusions on this. The ALJ did knock down the recommended penalty because he found that my client at every step tried to appease the commission and the concerns that were raised. And at one point, my client, whether he understood or misunderstood, had an affiliate company get licensed in any state, which is what they understood. And then for 2 years, we didn't hear anything from the commission, and he assumed everything was good at that point. And then 2 years later, this process gets started. And so everything that my client has done has been in good faith. And so we think, even if you decide to go with the cease and desist order, they're not going to be able to do that anymore. And we just don't think that any amount of penalty would be necessary to deter future conduct, because my client has done nothing intentional. There's been no fraud, no harm. So if you decide to uphold the finding of a violation and issue a cease and desist, we would respectfully request that you at least consider there being no penalty. And as a final matter, and I know I raised this with Ms. Harris, and she suggested that perhaps I propose this to you. And my client really doesn't want to admit any wrongdoing or have to pay any penalty, and in return it would agree not to do business here anymore in the state of Texas. I hate to see them not do that, because I think they offer something that is unique and is helpful for everybody. But if that's something that could be worked out at this stage, wonderful.
Mr. Henry, that's 4 minutes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank
no
you.
Problem.
You have everything in front of you, and I don't need to go through these anymore, but my client would respectfully request that you take into consideration the arguments that we've made in the matter.
I would ask you to remain at the lectern in case any of the commission members
Sure,
have any
yes.
questions for you. Any commissioners have any questions for Mr. Henry? Okay. Mr. Morris, Ms. Harris, would you like the opportunity to respond?
Good afternoon. Sharon Harris with the Standards and Enforcement Services. My recommendation for Mr. Jeff Henry to ask you was just because he had, not that we endorse that, but because he had asked us about his client ceasing business in Texas in exchange for not filing an appeal after perhaps today, but not taking responsibility or admitting anything and not paying any penalty. It is correct. We had several years ago, informed as a part of our informal settlement process, informed the client, Mr. Henry's client, that they needed to cease doing business here, or if they were licensed in any state as a licensee from another state, they could do what they were doing, which is basically almost like being a marketing company. They were specifically engaged in what we have defined as real estate brokerage under the definition of brokerage. They did not choose to do that. I did inform their counsel at that time, which was a different counsel than Mr. Henry, that by getting a different company licensed, that did not satisfy this company that was doing the business. So if you have any other questions, I could answer those at this time.
Do we have any questions for Ms. Harris? Okay. At this time,
I have one question for counsel. Opposing counsel.
For Mr. Henry, I'm sorry. Could you come back up here, please, sir?
So just briefly, you talked about the relationship with your client and the cars that parked in their parking spots.
Yes, sir.
Tell me briefly about contracting with those people to sell their services, how that process, how they identified them and how they engaged them.
How our clients identify their
clients.
Okay. They have a website that just offers different packages and services, and the basic being that the client prepares its own listing, description of the house and the price of the property, and it might get posted on a couple of sites. And of course, as you go up the packages, you get more sites, more services, and at some point you get to a package where you're getting a listing on the MLS and in I think realestate.com. And so as far as our customers are concerned, they're not saying we want to be referred to a broker. They're just saying we want our listing here. And so if the trade rules were to change tomorrow that didn't require a broker to put the information on MLS, the contract between my client and its customers wouldn't change, and the customers wouldn't know any different. They're just wanting their listing to appear there, and they don't care how it gets there. And so they're not engaging or contracting at all to have their information sent to a broker.
Has anybody filed any complaints with Texas Department of Insurance on your client?
Not to my knowledge. And I think the evidence, and I think Judge Berger put in here that there's not been any complaint history whatsoever. Now, I don't know if, well, yeah, that's what he had in there from the evidence. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. At this time, I'll entertain a motion on agenda item 10C.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we support the ALJ's decision for the cease and desist letter and the $11,000 fine.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, Ms. Lewis, let's move back to agenda item 10A, please, ma'am.
Agenda item 10A is a consolidation of two SOA docketed cases, numbers 32914, 3459, Texas Real Estate Commission versus Ramona Black, and 32914, 4787, Texas Real Estate Commission versus Solomon's Gold Realty Group International, Inc., who is a broker. No exceptions were filed, and the ALJ in this case recommends revocation and an administrative penalty of $25,500 for each respondent, Ramona Black and Solomon Gold Realty Group, Inc., which is an entity broker.
Mr. Morse.
Standards and Enforcement Services Division agrees with the proposal for decision and recommends its adoption. I'm available for any questions. Sharon Harris was the expert witness on the case. It's also our understanding that respondent is here today and would like to speak.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Morse at this time or Ms. Harris? And Ms. Black, you're in attendance? Okay. We'll give you 3 minutes, okay?
Good afternoon. My name is Ramona Black. I'm actually the respondent, and I'm welcome to be here to see actually what I took a test for as to you as council members. And I have been in the business 12 years. It's been a trying 12 years, 7 of them pretty much, which is leading me to this case here. The first 7 years I started the company. I knew I could have a broker represent a corporation, and I got the license, and basically I've been pretty much trying to stay in the business. I went through a divorce immediately after the 500 banks went out of business in 2007. I had to raise my teenage children, get them out of school. They've all graduated. I am a single parent, striving to just do what is best for the people in the community. At this time, when this first case had taken place, I was battling a diagnosis of cancer. And my thinking, I know, because I always have stood up to my ethics and always tried to do the best for the people as a buyer's agent. And I'm pleading to the courts today, to you guys, because I had an attorney represent me on this, and he did not. He didn't speak for me at all. I had no witnesses, and I had witnesses. And I'm only here. I drove in, I'm exhausted. This whole trauma I've gained probably 30 pounds, and we all know stress. This is a business of people, serving people. I didn't do, this here is like as if it was a conspiracy. And I don't know the decision why it was granted like this towards me, because literally I'm number 2 in Houston in buyer's agents as a renter's agent, and I help thousands of people get in homes. I teach seminars, and for me right now I'm having to fight for my livelihood. I definitely know mentally to even try to help another person, using another person, I didn't see any harm at the time, and I don't know if it was because of that. And then I have a teenage daughter. She graduated the same year. She was threatening suicide. I have doctors and hospital reports on that, and it just was a lot of pressure just trying to maintain in the last few years, and then to have to go through something on hearsay, because my client, Larry Blow, which you see on there, he actually did give me permission, but it was verbal. So I thought when we started in real estate, you can do verbal or implied or express contracts. So for me, honest mistake, my broker at the time, he was new in the business, and for my company, I've had to literally for 7 years run a business that really was just me. I've not done anything to hurt anybody. The second case was really a broker that came to work with the company. She didn't do what she was supposed to. She knew I didn't say I was a broker. I know that I have a corporate broker license. So if anybody took that I was stating I was a broker, I know I'm not a broker. I've never posted it on any websites. And for me, I'm having to defend myself when this young lady was a broker. She could have looked at the records if she if she had a question. I have all my documents here, and the broker that I met her through, he was going to come on to help Solomon's Gold, and I have all the emails on that. The third case is I was moving, and literally it was stressful last year. I'm at the place now where I'm trying to get some stability to move again, and the young lady came to me. Only person really lost was the third person, and she only lost fees that I had to accumulate as a business, which were like your express mail package and a stop payment fee. I included all of that to the board and to Leah, and at this point, I am begging, I'm pleading. This is all I have. I have so much to do, and this is what I do to help people, but I don't take from people. I'm in ministry. I've never taken anything from anyone before. And I be here 12 years to struggle to keep a company alive 7 years, which they're saying it was inactive. That was because I switched brokers, and I don't want to get into that part. The broker that switched from me at the time, and I went to Carl Johnson, literally left my company
Ms.
empty.
Black, I'm
yes,
sorry.
Sir.
You wrap it up, please, ma'am. I'll let you go.
I'm rambling on, and I apologize.
It's okay.
Nervous.
Is your attorney, was that Theodore Andrews?
He quit on me.
Was he at the SOA hearing? Did he appear at the SOA hearing on your behalf?
Yes, I didn't speak. He didn't ask me if I had witnesses or anything. He just took my money, and then when all of this came down, he was like, I can't help you no more.
But he was present at the SOA hearing?
Yes, sir.
Who were the witnesses that you would have had him present had he been there?
I would have had the young lady who dropped off the commission back to RE/MAX on the first case. Also had a young lady that was working with me, and she's still a real estate agent with Solomon's Gold on the third case. I could have had her there. He never took the time. He just took my money, said he could help me, and now I'm here by myself. And no one's been able to help me. I've looked. At least get an appeal. But in my case, everyone said normally it's over. So I don't know any other way to go but to drive here this morning and defend my case.
Well, we're glad you're here, and you're obviously more than welcome to show up and talk to the commission. Do any of the commission members have any questions for Ms. Black at this time?
Yes, I have a question. Ms. Black, I empathize with your position and what you've said. Your background is very touching. Have you read the documents that support the justification for the infractions that you are alleged to have committed?
I did. I have them with me, but
do you concur? Are they truthful or not?
I don't feel they're truthful. I feel they're hearsay.
You feel they're hearsay, but you have read it and you attended the hearing, and you still say that the things that were presented, to your knowledge, are not truthful.
The way it went, I didn't speak at all.
No. Do you believe that they are truthful or not?
No.
Okay.
Not all of it. No.
Second question. What is it that you propose that you would like the commission to do relative to what has been presented as evidence for you?
Give me a second chance, maybe probate. I don't know, because, I mean, the documents I have, if it was explained by me and not counsel, not asking me questions to help get my answers to provide to SOA, I felt like I would have been given a better chance. I didn't speak because there were some other outstanding situations that he was like, well, we'll just do the talking. But it hurt me. And I don't know if I answered your question.
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Commissioner Arriaga, did you have a question, sir?
Yes, Ms. Black, same questions, but go a little bit further. Do you know what they're recommending to us that we ought to consider?
Yeah, my license, fines. My company carries E&O, but no one lost anything. No commission was given and kept. The man, he received his money back. I even put him in a house, but that was never brought up. The Lee Snyder guy. He got everything back from me. I even gave him part of my commission as what they call a principal, because he was the person bringing me the situation. I don't know. At the time when his deal happened, I, like I said, was going through a discovery of cancer, and then I had my daughter's situation. I didn't have time to really put all this together because I'm trying to survive and pay representatives and attorneys. It really was a lot on me. So to answer your question, I don't really understand any of it. I just know that it's here, and I don't know what else to do but come to you.
We have 150,000 people with real estate licenses. Same rules. Follow the same process. We all have to know what we're doing. We also have a process that if we're wrong, that you go and you try and explain your case. You did. And I
Yeah.
know that you are saying that your attorney dropped the ball, and maybe there's a way to follow that avenue someplace. But for us to bend the rules for one person does not really sound fair.
Right. I'm really, excuse me, don't really know I didn't know what my options were. No one counseled me to give me that. I was spending money for what, really? I mean, I don't even know what to do. I didn't know what to even expect. I asked the gentleman, Mr. Alley, earlier, what do I expect here? Because I'm just coming because that's all I knew to do. I've been here 12 years. I paid my fees faithfully. I'm in a situation that really, the paperwork says one thing, but it's not true. I didn't have a chance to defend myself.
Ma'am, one of the things that that we struggle with every time that we meet is, trying to weigh what's best for the public good as a whole. As was mentioned, there are a lot of license holders out there, and every person that comes before us has their own situation, and we try really hard to deliberate on what is fair and what is just, and even if it means that the person that is receiving an action does not feel that it's fair or just. And that is the most difficult thing about this job, is doing what's right even when the person that's going through it feels you're wrong. I would like to make mention that in this situation, you do have the ability to appeal this to a district court because of the judgment. I am not a lawyer, but I would say that based on your compelling testimony today, I would find good counsel that is going to take you to get that vindication that you're looking for, because it's going to take a lot more discovery and a lot more time than what is going to be what we have here today. And it sounds like there's been a lot of time expended up to this point. So you're as a personal note, I think that's where you're going to find what you're looking for, unfortunately.
I've had such a hard time trying to find someone to represent me. But I'm going to take whatever's to be dealt, and I'll go forth and take your advice. I appreciate that so much.
Have you filed a claim with you said Solomon's Gold has E&O coverage?
Sir?
Solomon's Gold has E&O coverage. You have an E&O policy? Have you filed a claim on it?
I've never filed one.
Okay, you might consider doing that as well.
Right.
Because oftentimes your policy will cover administrative actions against your license, and they'll go hire a lawyer for you. Okay. Any other questions from commission members?
So what you're saying is I can file to my E&O insurance?
I'm suggesting that might be an opportunity for you, but right now what we have to do is decide whether or not we're going to adopt the proposal for decision that was submitted by the administrative law judge. I absolutely think you ought to try and find counsel. Do we have anything else from our staff? Would you like an opportunity to respond, Mr. Morris or Mr. Harris?
It's fine for him to make that motion.
Hang around, Ms. Black, in case we have any more questions.
Mostly only if y'all have
for you.
any questions. It was one of the strongest opinions I've seen, some of the wording in there, and it was very unusual in that the judge actually calculated $63,000 in damage, which was higher than the $51,000 we asked for. There was counsel represented at the day of the hearing. They called in that morning while we were waiting in there to say that they wanted to attend by telephone. He did vigorously cross-examine. He did not call respondent, and as she said, respondent did not have any witnesses called either. If y'all have any questions.
That was my only question. Did you attend the hearing?
I attended the first part of the hearing.
Okay. And how would you characterize the assistance of Ms. Black's counsel in the SOA proceeding?
Well, obviously I have a different interest in that person, but he did take an active role and did appear to me to be fighting for his client and did question the witnesses on cross-examination when I was there. But other than that, I don't think I can say too much more about the counsel.
Okay. Was Ms. Harris there? Yes. Could I hear from you, please, ma'am? Just briefly, do you have any responses with regard specifically to the comments about Ms. Black's counsel and whether or not, in your opinion, he provided effective assistance at the SOA stage?
As to effective counsel, again, the only thing was that he participated with the witnesses that were brought by staff attorney Leah Alexander. I was one of those witnesses. I served as expert. I recall being cross-examined. I do recall most of the other witnesses. Ms. Alexander, if you look at the PFD, they do set out, she had quite a few witnesses for the complainants as well as other people for especially the first complaint as well as the other two. The other thing, if I could answer here, he did not, I've been at hearings before where their choice, they decided not to ask their own client to testify. They, must have thought that the cross-examination or the credibility of the witnesses or the documents that were presented were more favorable to them. Again, in my 19 plus years here, 3 complaints, year and a half. I understand, and I heard her testimony just now, but again, I'm an attorney for the Real Estate Commission for the people. And thank you.
Let me ask a question.
Mr. Allen.
You saying she did not testify? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Black.
Okay, right. Okay.
Commission members, any more questions for our staff attorney or for Ms. Black?
I have a question for Ms. Harris. I may get mixed up in the names, but it looks to me like that more than one of her clients, at least one for sure, was a witness for the commission, not for her, right?
Oh,
Ms. Lee Schneidler?
Shivers.
However you say that?
Schneidler. Mr. Schneidler. Yes.
That's the client that was the person who was supposed to end up in the lease property that in Missouri City.
Yes, he did.
And he was a witness on our side.
Yes.
Right. Okay. I was just making sure. Okay.
I think also, with all due respect, Madam Chair, probably Ms. Harris served as an expert witness in the case. She wasn't
You're right.
necessarily representing the commission.
I was just reading what...
She obviously has knowledge, then she's more than capable of testifying on that, but those questions may be better posed to Mr. Morris if they're in terms of what witnesses
You want to answer
were
that
present.
question?
Yes, there are a number of witnesses that were subpoenaed that we would not characterize as witnesses that were necessarily friendly to the commission. In other words, they weren't the complainant, so some of the witnesses testified reluctantly. But as you can see by the findings of fact, the judge came out pretty strongly on one side.
He did.
Any more questions, commissioners?
Counselor, I'm ready to make a motion.
I'll entertain a motion. Commissioner Arriaga.
Real quick, sorry, just before we do that, I think it's just for the everybody here. It's worth noting we see a lot of these ALJ analyses and reports, and in memory, this is the most strongly worded one that we've ever seen. And just if I could, just to read just a little bit, in multiple times the ALJ uses the words, her actions both independently and collectively demonstrate that she is untrustworthy, engaged in deceptive and dishonest acts that demonstrate she is untrustworthy. Her actions demonstrate that she is untrustworthy and that she'd not be allowed to hold a license that would give her the opportunity to prey on others. So, I sympathize, man, with your pressure and the difficulties you've been through, and we all deal with difficulties and pressure in life, but it's never an excuse for dishonest behavior.
Commissioner Arriaga.
And the commissioner is correct. 3 complaints. Ms. Chowdhury, Mr. and Mrs. Chowdhury, Ms. Shivers, and Ms. McLean, and 24 violations is very hard to overcome in my view. At this time, I move that we support and adopt the ALJ's decision.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? At this time, I will return the floor to Chairperson Wukash.
Thank you, Commissioner Turner. Thank you for doing that. And for those who don't know in the room, Commissioner Turner is an attorney. That is why he takes over for this part, because I am a broker, not an attorney. We'll go to agenda item 12. Discussion. These are all rules for possible adoption.
Good afternoon. Carrie Lewis again, General Counsel. Agenda item 12, discussion and possible action to adopt amendments to section 539.81 funded reserve. First of all, you will all notice on your dais, I've got a reproposal document for you all to look at, so that's what I would like for you to refer to when I'm talking about this. The amendments that were proposed in the Texas Register, we did receive one comment on it. It is from a very interested stakeholder who is a residential service company. This commenter we've been working with this commenter on trying to come up with a solution to the various issues that were raised in his comment letter. The write-up that I gave you kind of went through it all, but to summarize and save some time, the issue of cross-jurisdiction with TREC and TDI, Texas Department of Insurance, has been a little bit confounding for us and for TDI as well. After receiving this letter, there's been some discussions with TREC and TDI, and we, both agencies, feel to come at this matter from a different direction, and that's why we would like to withdraw the current proposal and re-propose what's in front of you, which is a much simpler scheme of having the residential service company, if they want to reinsure the outstanding risks of those contracts through an insurance company, that's a captive insurance company, then they could only do so up to 2/3 of the amount of the outstanding remaining risk on the contract. In that way, the purpose of the funded reserve of having the security there for ongoing contractual obligations would remain on some level, and then the insurance aspect of it with a captive insurance company would be available to that company to use for the additional 2/3. The difference with a captive insurance that we feel from the staff level is that it's not the same as your traditional insurance company. It's more like a self-insurance vehicle, and so the security for the consuming public is not as great. The residential service company has been made aware of this re-proposal, and they still have some issues with it, but they are leaning towards giving it an examination and coming up with possibly some additional comments after this new draft is proposed. But they do want to continue working with the commission to try and find a solution that can work practically for all parties.
Okay. And they are not here to speak for or against this motion at all?
They are here, but I don't know if they want to speak.
No comments. So, I seek a motion from Commissioner Turner. Look at 138.
Madam Chair, I move that staff is authorized on behalf of this commission to withdraw the amendments to section 539.81 funded reserve as previously published in the Texas Register, and to submit reproposed amendments to section 539.81 funded reserve as presented in this meeting, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for proposal to the Texas Register for publication and public comment.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Were there any questions anybody had after Carrie's presentation? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Agenda item 13.
Discussion and possible action to adopt amendments to section 543.4 forms. These proposed amendments were published in the Texas Register in February to update and clarify the use and content of forms necessary to register, amend, or renew a timeshare plan. No comments were received on the amendments as proposed, and staff recommends adoption as published.
A motion from Hensley.
Madam Chair, I move that the staff is authorized on behalf of this commission to submit for adoption amendments to 543.4
.4, forms as previously published in the Texas Register, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for adoption.
No motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions for Carrie? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, no. Motion carries. Agenda item 14.
Discussion and possible action to adopt amendments to Section 535.401 required notices. Again, these amendments were proposed and published in the February Texas Register to clarify and update the form easement and right-of-way agents are required to give to consumers prior to the consumer entering into a transaction concerning an easement or right-of-way. No comments were received on the amendments or on the revised form as proposed, and staff recommends adoption as published.
Mr. Martinez, are you willing?
Absolutely. I move that staff is authorized on behalf of this commission to submit for adoption amendments to 535.401 required forms as previously published in the Texas Register, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for adoption.
Motion to have a second?
Second.
Any questions for Carrie? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Agenda item 15.
Discussion and possible action to adopt amendments to Section 535.2 broker responsibility. The amendments were published in the February issue of Texas Register. The amendments insert the obligation to notify the Commission when a broker delegates responsibility to another license holder for more than 6 months. This provision was in another section that was previously dropped during the reorganization and clarification of Chapter 535. Staff is also recommending a non-substantive change to clarify that subsection I is applicable when a broker has a sponsored agent or is a designated broker of a business entity. We get questions on that. It wasn't clear, so staff would, we also got no comments on this, but staff would recommend that we adopt amendments as published with this one clarifying change.
Commissioner Arriaga.
Madam Chair, I move that the staff be authorized on behalf of this commission to submit for adoption amendments to Chapter 535.2 broker responsibility as previously published in the Texas Register with the change presented, along with any other technical or non-substantive changes required for adoption.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Does that cover the change, the staff change, that motion, the way it was worded?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, no. Motion carries. Agenda item 16, the long-awaited 30-minute play.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, Agenda Item 16, discussion and possible action to adopt amendments to Section 535.223, Standard Inspection Report Form. The proposed amendments to this rule were published in the February 27th, 2015 issue of the Texas Register. The amendments are recommended by the Real Estate Inspector Advisory Committee to notify consumers about potential hazards regarding lack of bonding on gas piping, including corrugated stainless steel tubing, or CSST, by adding language to the consumer notice concerning hazards or deficiencies section of the Standard Inspection Report Form, and to adopt by reference changes to that standard form, the Property Inspection Report Form REI 7-5, approved by the Commission for use in reporting inspection results. The committee received 9 comments on the proposed language, including comments from 2 inspector trade associations and 1 non-industry trade association. While many commenters agreed that providing the notice to consumers regarding potential hazards with improper bonding of CSST or other metal gas tubing was helpful, the commenters differed on the appropriate language to be included on the standard inspection form. One commenter suggested that the proposed language would be confusing for inspectors. Another commenter suggested that inserting the phrase yellow jacketed before corrugated stainless steel tubing CSST. Yet another commenter suggested revising the language to lack of additional bonding on corrugated stainless steel tubing for gas piping. Still another commenter questioned the addition of the language regarding potential hazards with CSST, but not other potential safety hazards. And 2 commenters suggested contacting the Electrical Division of the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation for their input. One commenter suggested contacting the Texas State Board of Plumbing Examiners for their input. 4 of these commenters suggested that inspectors should give notice recommending consumers have additional professional inspections if CSST is identified in an inspection report. And one commenter recommended adding a disclaimer regarding the inspection of CSST that would automatically suggest further evaluation by a licensed electrician. A second commenter suggested having inspectors recommend consumers contact a manufacturer-approved installer or licensed electrician to ensure that CSST is properly installed and bonded. A third commenter asked inspectors to encourage homeowners to seek out a licensed electrician to evaluate CSST. And a fourth commenter suggested inspectors should notify consumers to have both a licensed electrician and a licensed plumber evaluate CSST for proper installation and bonding. The Real Estate Inspector Advisory Committee considered all of these comments at its meeting on April 13th, 2015, and recommends the Commission adopt the rule as published with a clarifying change to the language to be included on the standard form as follows: lack of bonding on gas piping, including corrugated stainless steel tubing, CSST. Staff recommends adoption of the amendments as published with the clarifying change as presented and an effective date of September 1st, 2015 for mandatory use of the revised form.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate your comments. We're going to seek input from all of these people that wish to give input. I will tell the audience that all of the comments that were received timely were sent to the Commission 10 days ago, and I've read through them all, as I'm sure all the other commissioners have. We did receive a late train comment from Mr. Everwine that came this morning, and I actually have received 2 copies of it and have not had time to read it because we've been in the meeting since we got them. So we will call our first person who wishes to speak now. Becky Teal with the Brennan Teal Foundation. I remind everyone, you have 3 minutes.
Sorry we're having to be here. I'm Becky Teal. My son was killed in an explosion with a home that had CSST in it. That's why I'm here. The odds are against me that what I do and say here will make a difference in your life. I have had no intention of offering my life, my son's life up for your awakening, your awareness. So it is, and the reason I'm here. I am the exclamation point of a life, here to discuss the question mark of a death. I have 2 pieces of paper here, both very important to me because I'm not a speaker and I'm very emotional, and I will make this in 3 minutes. It has been said that this is not the place to make a difference. I respectfully disagree. Anyone who hears me today can make a difference tomorrow. That's what I'm asking. If he were standing beside me, he'd regale you with stories. He would enter your space and look into your eyes. He would connect to your being. He would be interested, and genuinely so, in your pastime. He'd offer you a tasting of pulled pork or a fragrant sauce. He would avoid all speak of politics. He despised jockeying and positioning for agendas, both personal and professional. He himself stood for authenticity in friendship, in food, in life. Nothing fancy was needed but truth. No pretense, but honest and fresh. The legend of his life did not grow in his death. It was evident in his life. He gathered friends the way most people select groceries. He walked down the aisle of life, putting friends in his cart. You'd be selected. This is personal. This is an exclamation point of a life. This is the question mark of his death. I have come as the exclamation point. My emotions have created my motion. This is not me. But I'm here. And I plead with you to take action. Not place the burden of proof on your people, but just to make them aware. You shouldn't have to fix or require your people to fix the problem. This foundation is not trying to do that either, nor are we trying to alter sales or commissions. You promote awareness, and the decision of the fix be left to the homeowner. I cannot rectify my life. Neither can you rectify the existing conditions. The market of CSST has been saturated due to devious but intelligent marketing and following without inquiring. What we can do now is based on the future, and that's to act, and it is to be now. An analogy, you have a 2-year-old, you have a swimming pool. You're going to be aware of the foots of that 2-year-old and the edge of that swimming pool. You're not going to remove that swimming pool from the back of your house, but you're going to be aware. That's all you have to do for yellow-jacketed CSST. Progression of awareness will continue and aids will become available. But for now, please don't do as the manufacturers and corporations have done in the past 12 years. Passing the blame, covering the discoveries and the dangers. I ask that you be bolder, stand straighter, act sooner, and be proud of what you can do right now. The language should be simple. I'm a very simple person. I make it easy for me. This home has CSST, period. This home has lead paint, the end. This home has asbestos, very simple. I'd like for you to put yourself in the garage with Brennan. Look into his eye as the air is sucked from his lungs and the ball of flame engulfs his body. I'd like for you to tell him, it's okay, Brennan. I voted for you. You can no longer stand beside him, and neither can I. But I'm going to stand for him, and I hope you will too. And I'm available for personal questions, if you have a personal question.
We appreciate your courage. None of us know how you feel, but we honor you. Our next speaker is Ms. Vincent with the Brennan Teal Foundation.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The Brennan Teal Foundation submitted a letter that I hope that you were able to read, but I'm going to give you a brief recap. On January the 23rd, Mark Goodson, a professional engineer, cautioned the advisory committee that bonding and grounding does not work. Then on February the 9th, at the TREC meeting, Mark Goodson, the professional engineer, he submitted a letter reiterating what he had told the advisory committee, warning to move forward with due caution. And I ask you if you had seen the test results regarding CSST and direct lightning strikes. And again, I ask you, have you seen those test results? And I'm not looking for an answer, but I guess look deep inside and answer that. On February the 27th, Mark Goodson submitted a letter dated 2007 to the National Fire Protective Agency saying CSST needs to be reevaluated because it will take a life. That's what he said in 2007. Well, it did. Our plea to you was to make a difference and not let this happen again. And I'm asking you again, will you make a difference? On April 13th, we shared with the Inspector Advisory Committee that we did not think it fair to hold the inspectors liable for presence or even proper bonding and grounding of yellow-jacketed CSST. And at that same meeting, an inspector discussed Governor Perry's proclamation of CSST Safety Day. We agree, it's that bad, it needs a CSST Safety Day. But the proclamation encouraged homeowners to seek out a licensed electrician. And again, I ask you, has TREC consulted with a licensed electrician? And then also, 2 educated Advisory Commission members voted against the wording that's before you today for vote. And yet with all of this warnings, and also Bob Torben with the Omega Flex, I believe he submitted a letter disagreeing with the verbiage, but yet it's before you today to vote on. For reasons unknown, I guess, to us at the foundation, it appears that you put a lot of confidence or all of your expertise with the National Association of State Fire Marshals, and I'm curious as to why you wouldn't go to a government agency and lean on them. And I say I'm curious, you may do that, and I'm just not aware of it, but I'm one of the ones that asked that you contact the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation and also the Texas State Board of Plumbing Examiners. And as a final plea, I'm asking you to consider additional research before you go to vote. And with that, I've got something I would like to hand out to you. We share a mission, and our mission is to educate consumers, and that's part of your mission statement. And also your philosophy says that you demand integrity, accountability, and high standards. And I know that you probably all know that, but I just want to be a reminder.
Thank you. Our next speaker, if you could start making your way here, is Derek McMullen.
Thank you.
State your name and your organization, please.
Derek McMullen. I'm with the PREA AK Inspection Services out of Houston. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak. I sent an email to Tony a few weeks ago, and it may be what was referenced up here is in regards to getting a hold of Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation, because the problem in Houston is, and I'm assuming across the state, is that consumers cannot find an electrician that understands how to bond CSST, and a lot of them don't understand bonding of gas lines as a whole. I've called dozens of electricians, contractors, and you mentioned CSST, and they have no clue what it is. So I commend you for adding this to the OPI and the preamble, but by the time the consumer sees our report, they've already spent $100 on option fee. They've given us $400 or $500, and they've already looked at however many houses that they've considered purchasing. So this is on kind of the tail end of where it needs to be, in my opinion. I would consider or suggest that maybe it needs to go to the seller's disclosure, and so the consumer knows it straight up front, there is or there isn't CSST. So it's more about education and getting the word out there. And then also, if TDLR has been contacted by TREC, and I know it's not TREC's responsibility to do that, but we need to partner with them to get the word out, because I can't find an electrician that understands CSST or bonding in general. So it's a huge issue. It's kind of been dumped on the inspectors, and we'll take it on. We take on all kind of issues. But to put it on the tail end isn't getting anywhere, is what I guess is what I'm saying. We need to get to the root of the problem, and not to throw the electricians under the bus, but they don't get it. And we need to get more information to them. And has there been any consideration of contacting another agency or not? So that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Were you going to ask me a question?
Nope.
Okay.
Bob Torben.
Thank you. My name is Bob Torben. I'm currently the Director of Codes and Standards for Omega Flex. We're one of the manufacturers of corrugated tubing, and my personal involvement with this product has been going on for 25 years or more. So I speak with a little bit of history here. And the corrugated tubing industry is trying to do its very level best to address this problem, both with remedies and technology, but also in support of the industries affected. CSST's been in the National Model Fuel Gas Code since 1988. The issue of lightning damage and bonding has been brought before their attention in 2009, 2012, and the current 2015 code. Studies have been done at their behest, research has been completed, and the NFPA, the National Fire Protection Association, which maintains the National Fuel Gas Code, has seen fit to maintain and continue to use and list corrugated stainless steel tubing as part of these model national codes, with the caveat that it be bonded, which is the subject before you today. The language that you propose will do the job. Whether the inspectors are capable or have the tools or the knowledge to understand what needs to be reported remains to be seen. However, as Mrs. Teal spoke to you, and the Teal Foundation is supporting education, awareness, and the corrugated tubing industry has done yeoman's work on this problem in addressing just that point. You'll hear from Jim Narva, the Executive Director from the National Association of State Fire Marshals, and our CSST safety program. We have worked with State Fire Marshal Chris Keneally, and we have a program here in Texas. We have been working now with the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. So whether a house is sold or not, whether it comes under the auspices of a home inspection service or not, we are providing outreach to homeowners in the state of Texas, whether they have CSST or not. We are working through other auspices of other organizations, including Atmos Energy, with the American Gas Association, with the National Propane Gas Association. The Teal Foundation themselves are dedicated to making people aware of this problem. And every spring and summer we get TV coverage. This problem, this issue of bonding and grounding should be as commonly pronounced as changing the batteries in your smoke alarm. Every year this message needs to get out. And we're working to do that. As far as the language you have, I have issues with that because I think it goes too far. The current language is technically acceptable to the corrugated tubing industry, but I think it puts extra pressure and onus on the home inspector. And originally we had just asked them to look for the presence of CSST. In reality, I think what will end up happening with this language is that all home inspectors, if they detect the presence of corrugated tubing, will in fact say we cannot determine whether it's bonded, we cannot determine if that bonding is effective, you should hire a qualified electrical contractor to do that determination for you. So in that regard, I think the language will suffice, and it probably does not need to be changed, but there needs to be an understanding with the home inspector community that that type of response will be acceptable.
Thank you, Mr. Torben. Mike Cothran.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Cothran. I speak today on behalf of TREC and the Texas members of InterNACHI. Inspectors and myself are charged with giving a potential buyer of a home a report on the condition of the home, including safety concerns, within the standards of practice set by this commission. The rules and standards of this commission do not require that I inspect for lightning protection, nor does the IRC provide for residential lightning protection. I do not see any statutory authority to require such of either. Yet considering the verbiage that is under consideration today, and that it would require that I call deficient an approved material whose manufacturer did not call for additional installation instructions before 2009, I see some conflict there. As confirmed by electricians, an inspector, who are not able to do this either, but an inspector is not able to confirm bonding and grounding for of an entire home for a completed home. This standard actually is, my humble opinion, should not be in the standards of practice as part of what an inspector is required to do. To advise that buyers should have electricians either to confirm bonding or install bonding when it is not installed correctly because the buyers are calling, and is not realistic because the buyers are calling us and saying that they can't find any electricians to do this. None are willing to put their license on the line. By considering this verbiage, sellers are put into the precarious position of having a house with a problem that has no solution. I realize that the Inspector Advisory Council has sent this to you, and it seemed to be to have come from the staff placed on their agenda, but it is, I believe, not in the purview of the TREC inspection process to call approved materials as deficient, as does the OPI. The staff has, as admitted in an Inspector Advisory Council minutes, that they are talking to the manufacturer's representatives, but these discussions have not been made public, nor has the ISC been a party to them or informed them. Staff should also be speaking with the professionals and licensees who are providing the opposing opinions. So far, those opinions seem to have been rebuffed, as evidenced in the minutes. The mission of this commission and all of the good inspectors is to look out for the consumers of the state of Texas. This includes both buyers and sellers of real estate. Just like Kitec, Chinese Drywall, and Bluebell, the companies that are responsible for these installations initially should step up and make the owners of CSST whole, particularly since they have brought the problem forward initially. You have, on the record of this commission several times, that asking your licensees to condemn an approved product will only work to disconnect the real estate transaction and place licensees in liability and taint sellers' properties. This problem was created by the manufacturers of CSST, and it is they who should step up and fix it, just like Kitec, Chinese Drywall, and Bluebell. They should supply inspectors for any CSST home to provide written confirmation that the CSST is installed properly and is safe, or they should have staff electricians who are willing to go make those installations whole. The previous chairman of the Inspectors Advisory Committee said that the inspectors of Texas have this issue in hand, on a record, in January. Not from the calls that we're receiving at Tapria and Internachi. Final item is that the fire marshal's letter that Mr. Turbin referred to does one thing that these words do not. He specifically states that yellow-jacketed CSST should be the way the verbiage reads, and it is not so. He obviously, this is condemning or calling into question at least all forms of CSST, which currently is not called, all of it is not called into question. Finally, I noticed on the agenda that this topic comes up on 24, and I would like to reserve the privilege to speak then if it does indeed come up again on number 24. That's what I have. I will take any questions that you might have for me.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Joe Gonzalez.
Good afternoon. I'm Joe Gonzalez from Houston. I'd like to thank all of you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. I'm not going to beat this thing up. You've heard a lot of opinions, so I'm going to go quick. I'm here representing TERI, the Texas Association of Real Estate Inspectors. As a professional inspector association, we're opposed to the language requiring inspectors to report the lack of bonding on gas piping, including corrugated stainless steel tubing. There's a number of reasons for that. You've heard the facts that it's difficult for an inspector to ascertain as to whether or not the CSST bond would be correct if we happen to see it. The problem with the wording, as I see it as well, is it doesn't talk about proper. So with the language in there, if we do not see a bond on the CSST, we're going to report it as deficient. If we do see a bond, we say nothing about it. The presence of a bond wire does not necessarily indicate a proper bonding of the product. Our recommendation would be that this should actually go back to the Inspector Advisory Committee to be explored further under a special subcommittee. We've obviously had quite a few people comment on this topic, and obviously due to the hot topic, we feel like it should be explored a little further.
Thank you, Joe.
I have a question.
Oh,
sure.
Okay.
You heard Mr. Torbin's assertion regarding that the home inspector should see that there is CSST and then notify the buyer, hey, you need to get a qualified electrician in here to determine if it's properly monitored or not. Do you think that's an acceptable burden on the inspector?
I would be fine with that. I don't have a problem identifying it, but I think our identification we should stop at identification. For us to get involved with trying to determine whether or not it's installed properly, a lot of it we can't see. And even if we do see a bond wire, there's length limitations as to how far that bond wire needs to extend back to the termination point. We don't know where it goes. We can't see it. So for us to see the bond wire and not say anything about it, we're not really assuring the consumer that they're safe. That's going to require special testing by an electrician. And as an inspector, I don't have a problem doing that. I don't have a problem identifying the material and recommending further evaluation.
Fair enough. Thank you.
You bet. Anything else? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Fred Buck? I have you down for 24 also, along with Mr. Cothran.
This is part of the show and tell activity here. I want to pass around, take home for everybody to have, because without having this product with you, you're not going to
Is that a roll of quarters? Is that a roll of quarters? Oh, no, okay.
Almost like a roll of quarters. But when my wife asked me what I was going to be doing today, because I was slicing pieces of this in the house, she said, why are you doing this? What's that? And I said, well, here, hold a piece of it. And she held it up. She said, man, this stuff's really light. And I said, yes, it is. Now compare this product to the traditional black steel pipe that's used in houses, and there's a difference in thickness. There's a big difference in how much of this a person can carry. When somebody walks into a house with spools of this on their shoulders, they can just pipe the whole house. It's a lot faster. I'm also a licensed master plumber, so cutting pipe and threading it and putting it in the house, it takes extra time to do all this. This is a great labor-saving device. It's a great piece of equipment to help build a house faster and reduce some labor costs. But beyond the topic of reducing labor costs, the big plus for this product is we're going to put it in houses that have earthquakes. Because if there's an earthquake and the piping gets broken or damaged, then this is going to be a little safer. So we're talking good news so far. We're saving money. We're making houses safer. The challenge that we have here in Texas, though, is if you look at this little map, you see the yellow, see the circle that's Texas? Well, this means that if we have areas that have lightning, if lightning happens to hit this product, there's a good chance that the thickness, the wall thickness of this pipe can be damaged or burnt through. So if we burn a hole through this and there's a blowtorch of gas in your house, we have the chance of your house burning down. Hopefully you're not there when that happens and all you lose is your contents. But if you're there and your family's in the house while it's burning, that's a big concern. I forgot to tell you, my name is Fred Buck. I'm state license number 161. I've been an inspector here in Texas for 33 years. I'm the former member of the Inspectors Committee. I'm a former chairman of the Inspectors Committee, and I want to share some topics with you that you may not be aware of. The difference that I want to communicate to you today is that when lightning hits that tree outside and that lightning travels over to the home where you're living, that's called an indirect strike. If you're in the house and that lightning hits your house directly, that's a direct strike. That's the topic that we're all missing today. We haven't considered that yet. What's the big deal? Well, if it hits out there and travels over to the house, there's less power, there's less impact to our house. If it hits the house directly and that lightning strike finds us in the house, or if it finds this product, there's a greater chance that it'll burn a hole through it. Burning a hole through it's no big deal until the gas that's inside of it starts burning like a blowtorch. That's a big concern. So the question of direct strikes and indirect strikes is a big deal. There was a study made by the Gas Technology Institute. This was a handout in your supplements today for the session, for this agenda item. This says that this agency has done testing to make indirect lightning strikes safer by putting on bonding wires. It totally disregards the direct strikes. It says that in the title. Validation of installation methods for CSST gas piping to mitigate indirect lightning-related damage. So what you're doing today is you're deciding we're going to make indirect strikes a little safer. If your house gets hit directly, so sorry, we don't know how to stop that. Now, here's the challenge for all of us. CSST continues to be damaged by the lightning that strikes. 2 weeks ago in Forney, Texas, lightning hit a house, caught it on fire, CSST. Last month, some houses in Arkansas got hit, took out the CSST, lightning fires again. The TREC inspection report form and TREC OP-I do not require the inspector or the agent to inform the buyer or seller that CSST is present or that it is deficient. No CSST language is being added by the legislature to change or add that to the seller disclosure form. The language you're considering today only states that CSST should be bonded. CSST is not mentioned in the TREC inspection standards of practice. The word lightning is missing in all of these documents. How is a consumer supposed to know that gas tubing can become a blowtorch and their house will burn down faster?
Fred, wind it up.
Okay. If you're going to be honest, you're going to make the same statement about bonding CSST that the manufacturers are making. Bonding makes it safer if it's hit by lightning. Bonding may not provide fire protection from a direct lightning strike. If you find out that CSST is no longer allowed to be installed like it is in an older home, your language is saying because it's not bonded, nobody has to do anything about it. The repair of CSST is negotiable. That's what the OP-I says right now. Any questions I can answer?
I'm just not clear what your recommendation or preference would be, and if, with all due respect to you and everyone else who's spoken, one of the first things I learned in law school when you're talking to somebody is to make sure they know what exactly it is that you want, if you'd like for them to be able to do what you want. And I'm having trouble discerning what each of the individuals, frankly, that have come up and talked to us today would have this commission do. We ran into this problem last time we were here, and we're not all public speakers. We're not all trained as public speakers, but if anyone else is going to speak on this topic, I would appreciate it very much if you would very clearly state whether or not you're in support for or against the current language, whether or not you think it's sufficient, what else you think we should do, particularly in light of the fact that we're here to adopt this language today, potentially. So, very long question, but Mr. Buck, your credentials are noted, and I appreciate the visual and the prop, and now I'd like to know what it is you want, or what you would like to see happen, please, sir.
All right. Mr. Turner, I respect your request. There hasn't been enough effort put in by this commission to deal with this topic. My recommendation is that the language that you approve to warn the public to say about CSST includes the words CSST, lightning, fire, damage, injuries, and death. Those words should be in the language. And I know personally of your own personal experience with the folks in Lubbock that I think that they deserve that at least. Any other questions?
No. Thank you, Fred.
Thank you.
Commissioner Turner, I apologize. This could be partially my fault on the public comments of the people who said how they felt. Mr. Torben was neutral. Mr. Gonzalez was against. Mr. Cothran was against. Mr. Buck was against. Others just wanted to speak. And now we will hear from Jim Narva from the fire marshals.
Who is?
4.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Good afternoon, and thank you. Jim Narva with National Association of State Fire Marshals. We were here, or I was here several months ago at your meeting. Appreciate the opportunity at that time and again today to address the commission. We've heard a lot of stories back and forth and testimonials and opinions about it. As a safety-minded organization and one that represents the state fire marshals, there is no perfect fix. We have a situation that is in front of us. I applaud you for taking the time and the interest and the energy to attempt to address it. We're trying to raise awareness. Is it going to be a perfect solution? I doubt it. But a potential homeowner, the buyer, the seller, has an opportunity to become aware of it. And what they do with that information is then up to them. This language that is proposed, if it puts a burden on the inspectors, as some have reported, I don't know that it does or it doesn't. But it creates awareness to the homeowner, to the seller, to the buyer, that there's an issue that they may want to check into further. So to be clear to the point, I support the language. The National Association of State Fire Marshals supports the language. It's an evolving area, and I appreciate and applaud all of you for taking it on. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Narva. Now I'd ask Stan Reinhardt to come forward Steve, to come forward and give us the information from the committee. You mind? If I could get my names right, I'd be doing good today.
Please. Stephen Reinhardt again, Chair of the Inspector Advisory Committee. This subject has been on our agenda and discussed quite a bit lately. Due to the fact that, kind of in my mind, if this was a grand jury or something, we're still collecting evidence. It has not been eliminated in the industry. When I put on my municipal inspector hat and I go do a final inspection on a house, if it's there, I look at the appropriate bonding, and if it appears to be there, I can't confirm it any more than an inspector can, but it's still approved. And that's one of the issues we have, is trying to go above the code and condemn a product, or even there are some that within the committee that still have concerns of listing it on here is kind of like listing, we saw fungus or mold or something on there. It will bring awareness to a buyer that reads it if they get an inspection, and it will bring questions. I too, in my area up in Bell County, I have issues trying to find an electrician that will come back to an existing home and do something about it, because they have no idea where that wire goes if we find one. I think it's pretty well known, if your house has gas, it has CSST in it, even if it's just the little connector that goes between the hard steel pipe and the appliance. So it's going to have it in there somewhere. The question of, if we report it, I think as inspectors on the committee, we were okay with reporting the presence of it, but that also brings up the red flag why are we reporting the presence? Is it a defect? Is it reporting just like high water pressure? It's kind of there, but it's not a deficiency. This wording has gone round and round a lot, and as a committee, this wording was approved and recommended to the commission for inclusion, and the couple of members that abstained or did not agree to it were more for a legal point. They were worried not so much of putting in there, but worried about putting the burden on the inspector, one, to find it. You know, how far do we go to find it? And then if we say it's bonded, like if we find it and it's bonded, are we kind of implying that it's effectively bonded? Is it working? Are we safe? And this, you know, so if I find gas piping and it's got a bond wire on it, then I don't, by the way we have it worded, that's the end of the subject. And there are concerns, does that wire even go anywhere? But as an inspector committee, we were prepared to go this far, see what happens in the industry as far as evidence collecting, and readdress it if the industry as a whole or the building inspection side as a whole comes up with something different that they want to do with it. I personally have it in my house. I've got the old and new CSST. I've got gas piping. I personally added another ground wire to it, but that was my preference as a homeowner. But as an inspector, there's a lot of liability, and I think that's what scares off some of the electricians from even touching it.
Okay.
But
thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you. Mr. Jones?
Madam Chairman, may I move that the staff is authorized on behalf of this commission to submit for adoption amendments to 535.223 Standard Inspection Report Form and the form adopted by reference as previously published in the Texas Registry with the clarifying language presented along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for adoption.
Second.
September the 1st.
I'm sorry?
Effective September the 1st.
Effective September the 1st, I'm sorry.
Now I have a motion and a second. Is that correct? Arriaga seconded that?
Yes.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, no. Motion carries. Agenda item 17. Jones, pick it up. Jones.
Carrie Lewis, General Counsel. Agenda item 17, discussion and possible action to propose amendments to 535.217, mailing address and other contact information. This deals with our inspectors, and the proposed amendments corrects the time frame in the rule from 10 days to 30 days to match the statutory provision, which has a 30-day requirement.
Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Hensley?
I'd like to make a recommendation. Move that the staff is authorized on behalf of this commission to submit the proposed amendments to 535.217, mailing address and other contact information as presented along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for proposal to the Texas Register for publication and public comment.
Second.
Any further discussion, Commissioner?
Oh, I was just saying second.
All in got a second? Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Agenda item 18, discussion and possible action to propose amendments to Chapter 535, Subchapter T as follows. Section 535-400, registration of easement or right-of-way agents, and 535-402, complaints, disciplinary action, and appeals. The proposed amendments correct terminology and renumber for consistency and provide a time frame for responding to complaints for easement or right-of-way agents that is consistent with our other license types.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
May I accept a motion?
I move that the staff be authorized on behalf of this commission to submit the proposed amendments to Chapter 535, Subchapter T as presented, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for proposal to the Texas Register for publication and public comment.
Second?
Second.
Have a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item number, I think it was 19.
19, discussion and possible action to propose amendments to Section 539.150 complaints. This is a one-word clarification of the terminology for consistency throughout the word. It adds, makes it 10 working days instead of 10 days.
And a motion,
Chairman.
please.
Move that the staff is authorized on behalf of this commission to submit the proposed amendment to 539.150 complaints as presented along with any technical or non-substantive change required for proposal to the Texas Register for publication and public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Alley. Second, please.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Agenda item number 19.
It's 220.
220.
20.
I'll get to it in a second here. I'm sorry, item number 20.
Point of order, we
any-
considered 20 prior to executive session, so we're on 21, right?
No.
No? Other way.
21, yeah, not 20. Looks like someone's supposed to talk about this.
On agenda item 20, Tony Slagle will be providing the legislative update.
Mr. Slagle.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I don't have any music accompanying me this time, so I apologize for that. But I'm just going to briefly go over a couple of the bills. We have two housekeeping bills in the legislature right now, the one dealing with TREC and one dealing with the board. On the TREC side, that bill, the Senate bill, which moved through the Senate, was voted out of the House committee last week, and it is on its way to the House floor to be heard. Pending any changes, which don't seem likely on the floor, it'll probably pass and go, hopefully pass and go off to the governor. On the board side, SB 1007, which is the board's housekeeping bill, that the Senate version of that bill has been referred to the House Committee on Licensing and Administrative Procedures. The House version is scheduled for a hearing this afternoon at 2 or upon adjournment. So we'll see where that goes. Haven't heard anything about any issues with that moving forward. There's also an SDSI bill, SB 217 by Senator Hinojosa, and what that bill does is it seeks to consolidate SDSI agencies under the SDSI Act, so to provide some uniformity in reporting, because there's 3 different acts dealing with SDSI agencies, so trying to get some uniformity in reporting, as well as get some limited oversight from the LBB on those agencies. There are 3 bills currently going through the process that amend the seller's disclosure or provide seller's notice. One is HB 1221 by Senator by Representative Lucio. That would amend the seller's disclosure to require seller disclosure if any portion of the property is located in a groundwater conservation district, sub-district, or special purpose district with the authority to regulate the withdrawal of groundwater. That bill has passed the House and is scheduled for a hearing in the Senate Committee on Business and Commerce tomorrow. HB 1639 by Frias adds a notice to the seller's disclosure. It's just a notice stating that the property may be located near a military installation and may be affected by high noise or air installation compatible use zones. And the notice directs the buyer to go to the website for the military installation or of the county or any other municipality to find out further information on that. That bill was voted out of committee and has been placed on the House calendar. That's a House bill. And then there is HB 1695 by Representative Bonin, which requires notice be given to buyers of lake-adjacent properties that the lake levels can fluctuate due to the exercise of water rights and drought. The notice requirements apply only to residential and commercial properties adjoining lakes with a storage capacity of at least 5,000 acre feet at its normal operating level. That's passed the House and has been received in the Senate. That's really, in terms of bills that are moving through the system. There are other issues we're monitoring, such as bills giving preference to military vets in terms of the hiring process, and there are bills that essentially bring the open records process into the 21st century, which will be very beneficial to the agency. Does anyone have any questions about anything?
Any questions for Mr. Slagle? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Oh, and just for your information, June 1st is the deadline. That's when the legislature goes, when they leave. Sine die. Thank you.
21st? Is that what you said? First. June. I was trying to make it sooner. Sorry. June the 1st. Okay. We already did 21.
Page 235.
Earlier today.
22.
Go to 22. Oh, yes. Do you want to make a motion in a second, and then we'll hear from our speaker on this subject matter? Yes, sir. Somebody do it. Something.
Madam Chair, may I make a motion that we adopt we've first, let me say that we have reviewed the performance and salary that I'm asking a motion be made, that I'm making a motion that we adopt a salary increase, and I don't remember the exact number, but 250.
158.
158.
15. I'll get it right in a minute. To 158. $158,000.
I have a motion.
Second.
And a second. And a question? We're not going to vote right now because we have a speaker. So, Chairman Wycliffe from the Appraisal Board, you will come and make a few comments on behalf of your board.
Yes. Thank you very much. As an active real estate broker and a certified real estate appraiser, thank you for your service. We do appreciate the time that you all devote to making the organization run. I'm here today basically to be an available resource to you for the TALCB. As you know, we equally share, well, we don't equally share, we equally share the benefit of the leadership of Commissioner Olmixon. And because of that, you guys, in the past, we have taken a fairly passive role as it relates to the evaluation of that individual. We have, over the course of the last couple of years, taken a bit more active role, and you actually see our organization in your ranking briefings. At least we've been provided yours, and likewise, I'm assuming that you've reviewed ours as well. So as you see from the shared ratings, I'm pleased that our numbers are mimicking the TREC numbers these days. I think that is a positive statement. My desire today is to answer any questions you may have of our organization and encourage the continued cooperation between the two entities as it relates to the development of this personnel. We've been busy at TALCB, and so I also wanted to provide any resource to answer any questions about any rumors you may have heard about what we're doing over there. But essentially, what we've been doing over the course of the last couple of years is dealing with the AMC creation and the Dodd-Frank increased education requirements and certification inside our organization, significant reduction of a backlog of historic appraisal complaints, and receiving actually our first Texas Rocks audit. That's been a big step for our organization in terms of moving from something that had been very negative inside our organization to something very positive. I'd like to thank Doug for his leadership in those movements, because he has been very instrumental in actually making things work efficiently there. Our team has spent a substantial effort increasing communication with our stockholders and in the enforcement process as well, which has not always been popular and has caused lots of conversation to occur out in the industry. So finally, for once we did get ahead of TREC, TALCB got ahead of you, we rolled out our website. We don't get to do that very often, so we wanted to thank our staff as well. It looks great, by the way. And we always like to take the opportunity to say thank you for the support that we got, because we do work together. I'm happy over a period of a heavy workload and numerous changes to report that we do have good satisfaction. Based on the Commissioner's sage advice, I want to be sure that you know why I'm here. As we move forward, I'd like to ask that you continue to communicate, especially if there are future promises made to leadership in this organization. It would be nice if we were effectively in the same communication. I'm sure you all saw the same things we saw. There are some comments as it relates to pay and what was promised. It would be nice if we knew what you all were talking about as it relates to that. We do have a budget that is affected by the decisions that you make. And so simply would ask that you continue to keep that in mind. In closing, I heard your phenomenal growth inside this organization, and I would ask you, with all the people that are flocking to the real estate industry, send some our way. Do you have any questions?
Any questions? Thank you and your board, and we hope to hold hands together better.
Yes, thank you. And again, just want to be a face so that we, you know, that we do care, and that the difference that we're all making collectively has some impact on each of us.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Jones, in your motion, I don't remember hearing an effective date. I just want to go back and circle
Madam
that.
Chair, may I go back and pick up a couple of small pieces to that? May I finish my motion by saying that I would like to recommend, or I would like to move that a salary increase to $158,000 effective August the 1st, to be effective August the 1st, then on 9/1, given the outcome of the what we heard earlier in a report from Mr. Slagle, the 2.5 mandated increase for the things, the insurance and all those things, be inclusive in that number.
So
Second.
the 2.5 is part of the 158?
Yes.
Then it would be a September the 1st effective date.
September the 1st effective, including that number, yes.
Okay. Does everybody understand that? The motion is for $158,000 increase to 158 effective September the 1st, that number being inclusive of the 2.5%. That's the motion on the table.
Madam Chairman.
What, and you were the second? Yes, and you have a question, Commissioner Justice?
Okay. I just didn't hear it the same way that Mr. Jones did.
Well, he went all the way down, and then he said inclusive.
You heard it wrong.
Right. I heard it wrong.
You have an opportunity to vote however you choose, and then if that doesn't work, I mean, if that motion fails, we can try again. Does everybody understand?
Just one question.
Yes, sir.
Was it September the 1st or August the 1st?
September the 1st.
Okay, I want to be clear.
Which would make it inclusive.
Okay, fine.
Everybody clear? Then all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say no. I got 1, 2, 3, 4 to 2. Did you vote?
I don't think so. I'm still trying to process the number.
Okay. Well,
You want to have any discussion?
yeah, let's have some discussion.
Could we have the base
No, you
number,
don't get to
please?
talk yet.
No.
143.8. Okay.
I can, and maybe we're suffering. maybe we're suffering from groupthink from our table over here, but I think Commissioner Justice and I were both under the impression that the raise would have an earlier effective date of August, and that the 2.5% mandate would be exclusive of the raise. That would be my preference, and so that's why I voted no.
To make it easier, I'm sorry, Madam Chair?
Yes.
So you're saying that the salary increase should be higher than 158 starting September 1 by at least 2.5%?
I'm saying that we would increase, my preference would be that we increase Administrator Old Mixon's salary to 158 effective August 1. If in fact the legislature does mandate an increase, a 2.5% raise for agency employees that's effective September 1, that 2.5% be in addition to whatever the percentage increase is that we've used to move them to 158. I respect you all's position, but that's...
I move a division of the House, which means a hand vote.
Okay. So let's try this again, shall we? So the motion before you, which has a second, is to raise the salary of the director on September the 1st to $158,000, which would be inclusive of what the legislature has proposed as 2.5, which makes that raise whatever 2.5% less than that, whatever it is. So we would see a show of hands for everyone who is in favor of that motion? A show of hands for everyone who's in favor of that motion. I see 3 hands now. Do I see your hand?
Switching.
You're switching sides, okay. So I have 3 hands. Now we'll see those opposed to that motion. You got your hand up? Okay, so motion fails. Does somebody else want to make a motion?
I need a new motion.
Okay, Madam Chair. Yes, sir.
No, go ahead.
Would you like to?
Yes, Madam Chair, I move that we give a raise to Mr. Olmixon for $158,000 effective August 1st, 2015.
Okay, I have a motion for a raise of $258,000. Actual number, not a percentage.
250.
Oh, not 258. Dang.
I heard
Dad, be quiet.
T-O. T-O, not T-W-O. Gosh. August the 1st. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Let me see a show of hands of the people who would be in favor of that motion. You got your hand up? Okay. Everybody that's here, that would be except Mr. Martinez. Commissioner Martinez is not here.
I'll vote for him.
Motion carries. Now, shall we move on to agenda item 23 and the budget for 2016? And who's going to present that in the absence of staff and...
I'm going to do that.
Okie dokie.
Be up to him.
With your new gazillion-dollar raise.
Commissioners, you have before you the copy of the draft budget that was presented, first draft of the budget for next year that was presented to the Budget Committee this morning. And there are just a few things that I wanted to draw to your attention, and then I'm just available to answer any questions. I think everyone is aware that the Commission has adopted a policy about how we get to a budget. The series of drafts and proposals and reviews that will lead us all the way to a proposed budget at your August meeting for adoption effective September the 1st. But prior to that time, staff works on forecasting both revenues and expenses for the next year, taking into account things like personnel changes, obviously things that the legislature, additional tasks that they might give us, as well as initiatives that both the Commission and the Board may want to undertake. The areas that have the largest immediate impact. So aside from what the legislature does as far as restructuring the compensation policy for state employees, so to require them to pay more towards their retirement and their health care benefits, and offset that with a raise. That's the kind of what the proposal that's on the table. But the budget conferees are only beginning to meet now, and so we don't know what the outcome of that will be. But we anticipated, we put that into the budget, assuming that it will be a feature of the state budget. And since we are a state agency, we need to remain competitive. That's the second big consideration for us, is to make sure that in fact we can attract and retain qualified individuals, at least vis-a-vis other state agencies. And I know many of you who've been around a while are aware that for a long time this agency was kind of a training ground for others. We would bring people on, train them and as soon as they could get a job at another agency, they would move on. And I think I reported to you last year that we had reached a place where, for the most part, that was that was no longer the case. There are a few areas where we are still behind, and so that's why I've asked for in that very first line item that the budget proposed for FY16 be 5% over the FY15 budget. So that's 2.5% to take care of the restructuring part, and 2.5% to provide that incentive, and we can focus it where we need it the most, and where folks deserve it based on performance. There is a corresponding employee benefit change there. There's a higher number there that has to do with some of those proposed changes. We're probably the third area that where we spend the majority of our time is looking for ways, looking through our history, the history over the past year on budget performance, and looking where the trend is down or where the trend is up in a particular category, and then trying to explain that. Well, we're up in this area because whatever that reason is. We're down in this area because we've substituted technology for digital processes for an analog process. You know, we used to buy 6 pallets, giant pallets of paper every year. We're now down to less than 2. So those are good things. Obviously, as we continue our digital scanning project, we need less space, and so we've been turning space back over to the Facilities Commission and allow them to provide that to other agencies, and so our rent goes down. So we're always looking for opportunities to find ways to make ourselves more efficient, while also increasing effectiveness. Any move towards efficiency, if it has a negative effect, a negative effect on effectiveness, then that's not something that we want to do. So you'll see there's some areas in the area of technology. We're projecting a new model, and in fact are implementing it as we speak. We are no longer purchasing computers every 3 or 4 years and replacing them. We are leasing them. And we're leasing them fully loaded with all the latest software so that we don't have to buy additional licenses or upgrade our software every time. So a part of that lease package is a standard configuration, and every 3 years, Dell brings us the very latest version of their desktop computer configured with the very latest software and puts it on the desk, and if there's a problem, they come back and fix it. That's all part of the lease package. And at the end of that 3 years, they take the other one away and bring a brand new one, all updated. So that's the kind of thing that we want to move towards. Essentially, technology, both on the hardware and software side, as a service rather than a tangible investment.
Mr.
I'm happy to answer any questions. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Mixon. Just a question on the analysis of that, because I'm just curious as a business owner as well. But because it is on a yearly basis, you want to put some capital investments over to see what technology, then you can add to that. So did y'all do a cost analysis of? We did. Okay.
We did. And for the first year, because we bumped up our, we also implemented the 3 years versus 4 years, which was our target anyway to get to. So if you adjust for the 3 to 4 year conversion, shortening that time frame, we're going to have a little bit more in upfront setup that first year. And then after that, on a go-forward basis, we actually save money.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Based on what it would cost us to license and install and maintain, purchase, service, all of that gets packaged together. So yeah, if we add it all up, we actually save money.
Commissioner Arriaga, as a member of the committee, do you have anything to add?
Well said. We're going to review it again in August. This is information only. Is that
yes.
No action at this time.
And this, we will also, at the end of May, we will project what our getting to the end of the year, how much we're going to reserve, how much we think we're going to spend before August the 31st. And so we'll have an opportunity to meet with the commissioners on the budget committee at that time. But under our policy, we'll actually send out to all of you a copy of the latest proposal, subject only to any final adjustments made at that just before the August meeting by the budget committee. So everyone will get it in their materials, and you'll have an opportunity to see what the recommendation is, just as an example. And I think Commissioner Martinez pointed it out earlier. If you look at this, we had projected, but for budget purposes, that we would make about $300,000. We'd be $300,000 to the good. 267 is the bottom number in that column. With the projections available at the end, through the end of February, actuals through the end of February, and then projecting through the end of August, it's 1.4 million. I'll tell you that looking at that's the positive, okay, that we anticipate. Looking at your budget spreadsheet, budget progress report that you saw in your materials earlier today, it's about 1.25 million. So there's a little bit of adjusting as we go forward, but a part of that will come with a recommendation for what should our operating reserve be, and then is there excess that we can move into either our facilities reserve or our education reserve.
So
happy to answer any other questions.
Any other questions? And at this time, it's just information only?
That is information
action
only.
Next time.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Agenda item 24, 4 parts. Who's got it? Oh, Ms. Jackson. No wonder you're still here.
Gwen Jackson, Director of Education and Licensing Services. We have before you agenda item number 24, which is the discussion and possible action to approve new or changes to TREC forms. The first form before you is the real estate broker license by a business entity, BBE_4. Our current form includes background history questions for the business entity. And this form is being updated to also include background history questions for the designated broker. The next form is the change of designated broker for a business entity. That form is CDO/MGR-2. It's being updated to include background history questions when there is a change of designated broker for a business entity. The next form is the Adult Education Instructor Training Course Form, AEITC-0. This is a new form which is to be used for schools in requesting approval to offer an Adult Education Instructor Training course. And then the final form is the Texas Real Estate Consumer Notice Concerning Hazards or Deficiencies, or the OP-1 form. And these changes are proposed to this form to mirror those changes to the Standard Inspection Report form that was proposed for adoption by the Commission under Agenda Item 16. Staff recommends approval of the forms as presented.
Madam Chairman.
Yes.
I move that the Commission approve new or changes to the TREC form real estate broker license by a business entity, change of designated broker for a business entity, adult education instructor training course, which is AEITC-0, and Texas Real Estate Consumer Notice Concerning Hazards or Deficiencies, OP-I, as presented, along with any technical or non-substantive changes.
Have a motion. Do I have a second? Let the record show that we had 2 people who wanted to speak on 24D and we can't find them. I've sent people looking for them. They don't want to speak anymore. Okay. So all in favor say aye. Aye. And opposed, no. Motion carries. What? You wanted to say something? Too late. Too late.
It actually is. No, it's part of his recommendation.
Oh, he wanted to recommend that we vote for it?
Okay.
Oh, he has a comment. Okay, well, bring it. Bring it. Okay, bring it. Just since we've already voted, bring it. Yeah.
I just wanted to reiterate the fact that I think as a committee, we would like to see this go to the owner broker and see about inclusion in all sales transactions and not just something that a home inspector may add to the report in addition to what's in our preamble. It may require a little tweaking because it specifically references home inspections, but I think the saturation would benefit home buyers.
Okay.
That was all I wanted.
Yes, another question.
So just I just want to make sure that the commissioners understand. So it's the recommendation of the inspector committee that this form be referred by the commission to the broker lawyer committee with a consideration. The recommendation from the inspector committee is that this form not be optional but be mandatory in all future, this form or a form similar to it be mandatory in all future transactions.
And the belief was that if these items are important enough to include on our inspection, if someone, for whatever reason, opts not to get an inspection, should still be informed of the hazards and consumer protection.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Jones?
It is much more widely used than just inspections. I will suggest to you my experience is almost all the property management companies use this extensively.
So going from optional to mandatory.
Well, that would resolve that issue for sure, and I think that would include some kind of ratification, or at least initialing that you have received it. I think that would solve that problem.
Okay, that was our thought. So,
thank you, Steve. Did we vote? Yeah, we voted. So that motion carried. We're at agenda item 25, which is anybody who has anything that we need to have on the agenda in the future. It's time to speak now. Hearing none. Agenda item 26, scheduling future meetings. And I would point out, Commissioner Justice, the meeting in November is on Monday the 9th, and the San Diego meeting starts on Friday that same week. Generally speaking, that's not something you're a fan of. Just wanted to ask you if you wanted to suggest that they look at an alternative date like the Monday before, which is, I think, the 2nd of November.
That would be fine with me. I realize they're trying to get it on schedules, but
I understand.
It is true.
Could you look into whether or not the meeting room is available to go a week earlier in November, which keeps those people who participate in trade association activities from being...
Can we check it from here?
Okay, so we're for sure down for August the 17th rather, 2015, August the 17th, and the meeting in November might be the 2nd and not the 9th. And February 8th to go farther, is that okay with everybody as far as you know? Those of you who don't know if you'll still be here, would that be okay if you were still here? Is there any other business to come before this commission? It's 7 minutes after 2. We are adjourned.